Hi, who do I have joining via phone?
That's Paul Filicetti on 406-721-5643.
Hi, Jim.
Hi there.
How's it going?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm good. Missing in-person meetings.
Mhm.
What's new?
Hang on.
Finally got it.
Trying to figure out how I can rename myself from just Emmy to make it a little more professional. There we go. Cool.
Hi, this is admin. Two things. We are live on YouTube, and I need the name of the phone number ending in 43.
It's Paul Filicetti.
Okay, thank you.
I'm in as also, and I'm showing as iPad. This is Bruce.
So that's Bruce Harrelson, Sarah.
Thank you.
Okay, it's 6 o'clock, so I'll start with the script and then we'll do roll call, I believe. So, welcome to the monthly Historic Preservation Commission meeting. I am Jamie Lockman and serve as chair of the commission. Paul Filicetti serves as vice chair. The Historic Preservation Commission was established by the Missoula City Council in 1989 and is charged with establishing a local historic preservation program. integrating historic preservation into local, state, and federal planning and decision-making processes. The program is designed to promote the preservation of historic and prehistoric sites, structures, objects, buildings, and historic districts. All the meeting body members are attending from a remote location. We are holding this meeting virtually, so we'll be doing public comment a little differently than usual via a live call-in phone line, just like calling into a radio show or to make a pledge during a telethon. I'll call for general public comment, and on that item, I will take comments that are on the agenda and items that aren't on the agenda. I will also open the public comment phone lines on each agenda item. Sorry. Each time we call for public comment, we'll put the numbers on the screen and the meeting ID and give some time for you to go to your phones and call in, but you may want to write the phone numbers down. When you call in, you'll be placed in a waiting room and I will take calls in the order that they come in. When I call on you, please mute your TV or computer or there will be an echo. Tell us your name and your comment. Please be aware that there is a delay of about 50 seconds from what you are hearing at home in the actual meeting. So it's okay to begin speaking right away when I call on you. I'll be observing a speaking limit of 3 minutes so we can hear from everyone. Just a reminder too, it sounds like commission members, please identify yourself when speaking. I think that was an issue with the minutes last time. So let's get started. I'd like to call the meeting of the Historic Preservation Commission to order. Can we have a roll call of members?
Jamie Ryan Lockman,
Here.
Steve Adler,
Here.
Kathy Bickenhauser. She's absent. Paul Filicetti,
Here.
Bruce Haroldson,
Here.
James McDonald, he's here. I don't know. And Kent Watson.
Here.
All right, we have quorum.
Okie doke. Calling for approval of the minutes from the last meeting.
This is Paul. When I checked the website, there are 3 meeting minutes on there.
I seem to
we
have lost
approving them all
everybody
at once?
again.
We have the minutes from June 4th, July 9th, and July 21st.
It looks like the July 21st meeting is a subcommittee meeting.
And the reason why we didn't pass the June minutes in July is because we did have that question about attribution for who was speaking. And I sent that email to everyone about maybe 2 weeks ago from
There we
the
go.
work. And so that's all been reviewed now. So we're passing the minutes for June, July, and the subcommittee minutes in July.
Thanks, Emmy. I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second it.
Call for a vote? Or question, excuse me, question?
Okay.
Call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, nay. Okay, approval of the minutes has occurred. Opening up for public comment. It does not look, sorry, no. Do we have the identification for the phone number that ends in 02?
Well, that's me.
Oh, that's you, Jim?
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I went to the waiting room. I don't know why they said my ID number wasn't wrong. Wasn't right.
Okay. I'm
Even
gonna,
though it shows it as that one.
staff, can you try to mute Jim's video feed?
Jim, can you speak now and see if we can hear you?
Well, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So having no public comment, we will move on to the member updates and general check-in. I don't really have anything. I'm not sure how we should do this. I guess just go down the line for anyone who has general comments.
And so I'll have my staff update after this. So Jamie and I just thought this would be a good time for all of us to connect and discuss, since it's been a couple months, and just to keep the conversations rolling. And Kent, I know you had some things you want to discuss. And so just, this is kind of a free for all, just us checking in with each other.
You want to go through an order, or should we just jump in?
Kent, you know what, you can start, and if anyone else has anything, just feel free to use the raise hand icon on the right where it lists all the participants. Somewhere.
Okay. Well, yeah, thank you, Jamie and Emmy. Some of you know I've been a little bit involved just personally with some informal contacts, people around town, about figuring out a way that we can better recognize the fact that Jeanette Rankin, a native daughter of Missoula, needs better recognition in this town. The only thing we have right now is a little dinky triangle park at the end of the Madison Street Bridge that you have to be a pioneer to figure out how to get to. There's a wonderful plaque there, and I can find and put it up later. I neglected to get that ready to show to you tonight. It's a great plaque. It's a bronze plaque. It's a relief image of her head with the basic facts about her having been born at that time near Missoula. It wasn't inside the city. That location is the ranch house that used to be at the Grant Creek Ranch. I learned from the people that run the ranch that it's no longer there, but nevertheless, she was born and raised in that. Was a major factor in the operation of the farm there, and then it moved to town for her schooling at a house that's no longer there on Madison Street, about where the DoubleTree is located right now. And then, of course, she went on to bigger and better things, and was the first woman in U.S. Congress, and elected in 1916, and was one of a handful of votes against the World War I. And then she continued to work for women's rights and was one of the spark plugs for women's suffrage, the 19th Amendment. And so I've just been thinking that, gosh, we ought to have something a little more than that park in a more public location to recognize her contributions to, national history. And she came from Missoula. And the only thing historically that's on the record for the state of Montana for Jeanette Rankin is a listing that was put out, I think, and I've got it, I brought it up on the other computer and I don't have it in front of me right now, but it was a listing for a 90-acre portion of the Rankin Ranch in Broadwater County, east of Canyon Ferry Reservoir. And it's in a location that most people wouldn't even know about. Hello. Anyway, it's a listing it's the only listing Rankin for the entire state. It's on the National Register of Historic Places. And so I was thinking that our commission might want to get involved in something like this if you're so inclined. And I would certainly be more than happy to take it on if others would join me in figuring out a way to better recognize her. My own thought would be, wouldn't it be nice to get another replica of that statue that's in Statuary Hall in U.S. Capitol, and a replica of that one is in Helena. It'd be nice to get another one, even if maybe it's a smaller size or whatever, in some kind of a public plaza. It has some interpretive signage that talks about the contribution that this very, articulate and forthright woman made to the history of our nation.
Thanks, Kent. I'm not exactly sure how to proceed with this. I guess if there's a call for a subcommittee, or, I think there are other folks in town, including the Jeanette Rankin Peace Center, which, I think collaborations are always good. And, it brings a lot of different talents and resources together. I'm not exactly sure what the Historic Preservation Commission can do, especially without, physical structure. I guess those are just my thoughts off the top of my head. Anyone else?
Well, my plan would be certainly one of collaboration. I've talked with Linda McCarthy. I've interacted with Betsy over at the Peace Center. I'm in touch with the people in the Parks Department that are involved in Rankin Park. And whether or not we take it on as a commission, I think that's something that we should decide here. But in any case, I'd be more than happy to move ahead with something. And if the commission supports the concept, I'm more than happy to move ahead and involve us as need be to make it happen.
This is Steve. I was just wondering if we could work towards bumping it up to the county level, like talk to county commissioners, see if there is any initiative we could take to get something done. I don't know, I kind of feel like she was important to the entire state, to the entire nation, but expressing that, it'd be a shame to make it just a city issue. I think county might be more appropriate. And I was thinking, gosh, county courthouse block as a prominent place for something. A lot because of its historic nature. So
you're absolutely correct, Steve. In fact, I neglected to mention in my remarks that was the first place that Linda McCarthy thought of as ideal, would be the courthouse lawn. And I've yet to reach out to Dave Strohmeyer. Dave and I are coordinating on other activities, but that's certainly a connection I would like to make.
So it is up to you guys if you want to make a subcommittee for that, or for you to discuss. And if you want to direct me as staff to reach out to the county, I can do that too. But that is up to you guys as to how you want to proceed.
I know Dave well enough. I'm very comfortable reaching out to him directly, but I don't want to bypass any norms in terms of how those connections are made and so forth.
Well, Kent, seeing as we haven't had much comment, if you want to include me on any conversations with Dave or set up a meeting, I'd be happy to be there too.
Okay, what I might do is put together a list of people I've been in touch with informally, and that's all it's been at this point, is informal. In fact, I was in touch with the state coordinator for the National Register this afternoon to try to get a copy of the description of the ranch over in Broadwater County, so I have some idea of what's already been done relative to her. And but I think Steve, you're absolutely right. I think the county is the entity that is involved.
Well, and for now, I'm wondering, I totally trust Kent to spearhead this, and would like to support your efforts in any way I can. Is it okay to keep it informal? And if Kent just kind of keeps us in the loop, and I'd be happy to suggest and help out and do legwork. But when something becomes more official, maybe bring it back for more formal approval, or more formal support from the entire commission.
I'm okay with that, certainly.
Do we need any more formal support right now, or is it okay to just run with it and keep everybody in the loop?
That's fine for me. What I can do is put together a list of the people I'm going to be, or either have already contacted or likely to be contacting about the whole concept, and send that to Emmy, who can share it with everyone. And that way you all know who I'm, and maybe like, I've been heavily involved with the North Riverside Parks and Trails subcommittee to the master plan. And being so close to Caras Park, I immediately thought of Caras Park. And Linda, good old Linda McCarthy, she's on top of this stuff. She said, you know, we got so much going on in Caras Park. How about the courthouse lawn? I thought, yeah, right. Much better.
Okay, that's excellent. Thank you. So I think that can move along informally for the time being, and when things get formalized, then we can perhaps we can lend our support to that. But that's awesome. Thanks, Kent.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kent.
We'll move on to old business.
Before we do, can I make a staff
Oh, sure. Sorry.
request? Only because this is we don't really have anything on the docket. And you know, my job is to give you guys staff updates. I was thinking it could be informational and kind of fun to do a round robin, kind of what you were talking about, Jamie, and just give each other updates on what we've all been working on in our professional or personal lives regarding historic preservation. I would just love to hear from all y'all of what's going on in your lives, and it's been a couple months, so.
Sounds good.
This is Paul. I'll jump in. So, which Emmy is going to talk about a lot of this stuff in our staff report, but we've been working with the Historical Museum at Fort Missoula on the ADC Barracks and the JAX grant that they're applying for. It's been a pretty exciting process trying to identify those buildings. If you're not aware of, those are dealing with the barracks buildings and recreating those on the Fort Missoula campus, on the museum portion of the campus. Some of those buildings came from the fairgrounds and they were pretty poorly damaged, or they were damaged at the fairgrounds, and then they were stacked up on the grounds at the Historical Museum and covered in such a way that moisture was allowed to penetrate them and caused even more damage. So it's been kind of a hard learning experience to go through the materials there, but we're putting together some information for them to move forward with a grant application. In addition to that, we've been working with both Missoula, City of Missoula and Missoula County, and Emmy's been a part of this in terms of the potential to take over the Missoula Federal Building. So that process is still moving forward, working with both the National Park Service and GSA on trying to pull that project together. It's a long-term effort, so we're just kind of scraping a little bit off of the top right now, so there'll be more to come later. Other than that, just keeping busy, staying healthy. Thank you.
Good deal. Thanks, Paul. I think Bruce is next.
Well, I just wanted to say how much I enjoyed meeting at the Trail Street property with Kathy, Steve, Solomon was there. was a pretty unique piece of property, to say the least, and the contents of it was almost more interesting than the property itself. And I was impressed by how we were able to give them good information from several different points of view on the preservation of that property, and how we were all pretty much in agreement that it was definitely worth saving and not, I mean, it was in good shape structurally. I told them, Steve had some great pointers. Kathy had good stuff to say about how to preserve the siding and other things. I think the kids were really pleased with our visit and how it turned out. So it was fun.
Where was that again, Bruce?
I forget the address, but it was on Trail Street. Maybe Steve remembers more about it, but probably original homestead for that area.
So
Occupied by the same family for a long time.
it's kind of out behind Sussex School, just north of Sussex School. And it was a joy to get out there, and it was a joy to be kind of part of a team ganging up to look at it. And I'd like to do more of that as a commission if we can, and was wondering if there's a way we could promote that better, or promote our availability for the advice we have and the expertise we have on board and on staff. And can we get more of that going?
It was also interesting to run into a young couple that was very much interested in preserving that parcel and restoring it. So not something you run into a lot of young people these days, it seems, in my experience. That was good.
Well, I now know almost exactly what you're talking about. I don't know the structure involved, but Trail Street, there's a portion of the Milwaukee Trail that runs right along there. Then
Yes.
it heads north to the irrigation ditch, which I worked on in 2007. So I got to know that neighborhood pretty well.
And I think it's pretty much just straight north of what shows as the Council Groves Apartments on there, but south of Trail Street and north of the Council Groves apartment. So right in there.
That's it.
Oh, hey, that's the one.
As that neighborhood has developed, it's an odd mix of things right now with apartment buildings, and you can see some trailer homes. And this is one of the last remaining homestead structures, I'm sure.
And I'm sorry, what's the date on it?
The date. Oh, they thought the turn of the century, or like 1900, something like that.
Excellent. And so do they have, I'm sorry, I was looking up things. Did they say they have plans to preserve it then?
Yes, very much so.
Oh, good.
Are you still in contact with them, or has there been any follow-up?
This is Steve. Yeah, there was a little contact. They got, last contact I had was with the wife, I forget her name. And she had gotten an estimate from a roofer, because one of the first things they want and need to do is secure the roof and make sure it's not leaking. And they got an estimate of $100,000 from, I think, somebody who was fishing for a sucker. And so a few of us and all of their friends told them, no, go out, get a few bids, talk to a few more people. $100,000, totally unreasonable. And that's the last I heard. So I think they're pursuing getting the roof redone first before they take on anything else.
Well, it's great to hear that you guys all enjoyed that, and I wasn't able to be there. And you know, we don't get requests that often at all for site visits. That was the first that I've had since, I think there was one off Patty Canyon like 2 years ago, maybe. I know Bruce, you and Kathy went to that one. And that was the last one that I remember getting just a request for like, hey, can you come help us out? So that's a good reminder on my part to maybe come up with some additional educational, for our website or Facebook, that we're here for site visits. And it's nice and informational to me knowing that, you guys feel that's within what you want to do as HPC members. So that's awesome. And a good reminder on my part to make that more present.
Yeah, that was a barn up the Rattlesnake. One of the first barns up the Rattlesnake.
Would you all like if I could make that kind of like a big thing on the website? We are available for site visits. Are we comfortable with that as being a major element? It's signing y'all up for a little bit more, if so.
I think it's worth a shot. And if we get flooded with requests, I'd consider that a good thing. And then it'd just be more a matter of scheduling it out and making it humane so we're not overwhelmed or
And so as a little background to the wider commission, we got a request for kind of a structural analysis for a historic building, which is the one that we just saw, Jamie, on the map that you shared. And I passed that on to a select few of you, just to not inundate everyone, because, Kent, you're involved in other ways, and Jamie, you're involved in other ways, and Jim, you're involved in other ways, and Paul, you're involved in other ways. So I sent it to our preservation architect and engineering portion of the commission to offer it as a site visit. And you guys took it up and it went out there, and that's awesome to see.
You had sent it to me. You sent to me too, Emily, and had a slight vacation for about 5 weeks, so I had to pass on it, but we'll be able to help in the future.
This is Paul. Yeah, I totally support that idea. I think it's inherent in what the members of the HPC should be doing, providing some sort of assistance to individuals who are really questioning that and as they're looking at their historic properties. So I encourage it. I like the idea of it.
I see the HPC too is instilling values of historic preservation into the community, and part of that is through exposure. And so absolutely, I think it would be a good thing to do. And any excuse to get out to do something is awesome.
And I apologize if we may have had this discussion before and I haven't made it more of a priority just due to other things on the docket, but hearing this feedback is really valuable and I can put it at the front of the line.
Well, I don't think you need to fault yourself for it. I think we just kind of, by doing it, we just rediscovered what a benefit it is. And now we're all thinking, oh, great, let's do more. So I think we were all kind of complacent until we finally had the opportunity and then found out what a good thing it was.
All right, so we hit Bruce. And now, Jamie, you can take over on the list.
Does anyone else have member updates that they'd like to share?
Yeah, this is Steve again. I kind of take it for granted because I get to look out my window and see it every day, but the work going on the Union Block, which is the old Radio Central building, has been going slow and steady, and they're making improvements, and I just encourage people to swing by and take a look at it if they get a chance. Looks promising.
Yeah, how's Scott doing on downstairs?
got on the Higgins block.
Yeah,
Yeah, that job is done. All they need to do now is install railings. So the columns are back in place, the barriers are down. It's looking good. You can tell where the new stone is and the old stone is just kind of by the newness and the wear on the old stone, and kind of makes a nice juxtaposition and being able to see tangibly what was done. It still doesn't show you the full story of everything that was underneath it and how much effort it took. But you still see the surface and what's new and what's old. Thought it was well done.
Thanks, Steve. Jim, did you have a comment?
Well, I was just going to mention that project too, so I can't beat me to it. And I guess I can just say I've been working on mainly the stuff that Paul's been working on, the courthouse and the barracks at Fort Missoula. But also, I don't know if you were aware, but we're doing a museum at the university for Montana Museum of Art and Culture, and it was to be located, if you remember, on Arthur and University, but that has been moved now. We're now moved. We're on the north side of the campus where it originally started in 2006, just across from the Adams Center and that parking lot that's going to be cut down quite a bit. So that's where the museum is going to be located now.
So are they still moving what used to be the Native American Studies home, the Tremper House?
Oh, I don't know about that, but we're not part of it anymore. Yeah. There's a whole new master plan, and I don't know what's happening on that. So, but they didn't want the museum there, so the people doing the master plan, SMA out of Helen as the master planners, and then some people out of Spokane.
Good to know. That was a confusing presentation, I guess.
It was, and I wonder if we should follow up and find out what their plans are for that building.
So Jim, the original plan was that it was going to be where the old Native American Studies house was, and now it's moved, so it's not going to be there anymore. Is that what I'm hearing?
That's correct.
Okay, so is the assumption then, as what Jamie asked, that the historic house is going to stay? I know if you don't know.
That I don't know. Yeah, that I don't know because they're doing this master plan now, which is of the whole campus. So
Okay.
I don't know what's happening there. They haven't presented to us or anybody else so far, other than that north end where they've asked us to move the museum to.
And is that north end, are they gonna demolish any buildings there, or is it an open space?
It's that open space. It's that parking lot on the west side of the Adams Center, and that big parking lot space.
Oh.
They're going to cut off Maurice Avenue and extend Memorial Way down to the bridge across the river there, and then the Campus Drive will come in to the west and come across, cut it back to 6th Avenue to the west more and make a more pedestrian area in that whole area right there. But that's all I know so far. There's a huge plan, and I don't know what it all is for that whole area.
Is that all university people then that are part of that planning committee?
Yeah, well, there's quite a few. I don't know who's all involved, but yeah, mostly university people. But yeah, we were a little involved because of that new site, and we were able to give them some suggestions to make it more pedestrian and oriented and bring the memorial walk down. And they agreed to that and agreed to be more green space around there and with the museum. So we're working on that plan right now.
Well, would it be worth inviting our former board member, Raphael, to fill us in? Because he is now head of the Museum of Museum of Modern Art and Culture, whatever, at the university. So I assume he's pretty well involved in all of that, and maybe he could give us an update.
Well, he's involved as much as we were, so.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Now, he is on the Arboretum Committee, so he has had some say in the memorial role that comes down to the Fine Arts Building now. But they're trying to decide what to do as far as trees that'll go all the way down to the river. I know he's been involved in that, but other than that, I don't know if he's much involved in the master plan.
Thanks, Jim.
Mhm.
Steve, did you have another comment?
Excuse me. No, that was it. That was the
Okay.
only comment.
All right, thanks. Anyone else?
I just wanted to throw in the fact, really, really important tidbit. For those of you that don't know, I happen to be the Montana liaison for the Historic American Landscape Survey. So that's certainly well outside of Missoula, but I just want, that's a post I've held for years. It's a wonderfully zero paid volunteer position. And I am working right now, just FYI, on getting the Going to the Sun Road listed as a historic American landscape. So that's an ancillary activity involving the history of Montana.
I was fortunate enough to drive that on, what day was that? Saturday, I think, Kent, and I thought of you and the landscape architects that were involved with that. So thank you for sharing that story.
Did you stop at the loop to read that interpretive sign there?
I did not.
It's hard to get in there because there's so few parking spaces, but that's the sign that talks about the fact that road design was conceived of by Tom Vint, who was the assistant landscape architect for the National Park Service in 1924.
Oh, good deal. Yeah, it was a beautiful time to drive up there. Logan Pass, of course, was filled. We did stop at the camp on there, which I had never stopped there before. So that was good. That was fun. Anyone else for updates? Okay, old business. I think I can talk to the Historic Covenant Subcommittee update. We've met and we're kind of on hold. Dave Strohmeyer has some interest in moving this forward, and I think that the subcommittee decided that that would probably be a better way to go is via the county, since those are county records anyway. And I mean, along with everything, it's just gotten slowed down. It may be that we ask the commission to lend its support to any of the county efforts. We asked Leif Fredrickson, who has applied to be on the Missoula Historic Preservation Commission, but has been held up by a lack of interviews. And he was part of that subcommittee too, and actually had a lot to offer. He's done work in this area, including some mapping. So he's a great resource. I look forward to having him on the commission someday. So that's my dig at the city folks to move forward with our empty spots and filling those. There are some good people who want to participate who are unable to do so at this time.
You're muted.
Sorry, Preservation Planning Subcommittee?
And I'll start with that one. We haven't met, and I believe that was Jim, Paul, Kent signed up in July. And I thought I sent out an email with a Google Drive of all the research that has been done, but please tell me if that didn't get to you guys. I can resend it. Did you receive anything like that?
I did not.
Okay.
You know, that sounds familiar. That was a while back, though. And it was a
was.
lot of information. I
It
do
was a
recall
lot of information and it was a while back. But I can resend that, and you know, it's not pressing, there's not like a deadline on it, but I was thinking the next steps would be for you three to just kind of generally review the research that I did, and then we could have a meeting and just discuss what we think would be the next steps for preservation planning for our ordinance. And I'll
Do you
resend that
have,
email.
I'm sorry, this is Paul. Do you have a schedule like you're thinking for that project?
No, there's no
Okay, great.
schedule, but we do have council attention right now. Sorry, and that is my dog, if you hear weird noises. He's a huge Malamute and he loves to howl, so he might sing. But no schedule, just that we have, you know, attention on us right now. And it's in their minds because I met with them twice before I sent out that information to you guys. And then it's just kind of us refining, you know, steps forward. And I think having HPC subcommittee backing on what we as a committee would like to see move forward, and then kind of come up with a game plan and then meet with them again with our plan.
All right, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Okay, we can move on to Building Watch then. Any buildings that should be watched? I have to admit, I barely gotten around town at all, so. Okay, hearing none, we can move on to the Historic Preservation Officer staff report and project notification.
All right, let me pull it up here. Sorry, that's my dog again. I tried not to make it too long. It's 4 pages, but I'll run through it. It's basically an update from July. As far as adaptive reuse, the 508 South 3rd Street was approved by City Council. And we got a lot of compliments on that and just how that's what council wants to see as far as sustainable density and development. And this is the type of planning that they want to see and yada yada. So it's very complimentary, which was cool. Let me see here. 903 South First Street is in the process of being reviewed. And it's going to go to public comment in the next couple of months, but they've put us off for the past 3 months where I wanted to get them in for presenting their tentative renderings. So we had a chance to review those. But the applicants said for sure in November, they're on the docket. So we're going to see those renderings as an informational presentation of what they want to do with that building in November. I highly doubt it'll go even to public comment before then. So I think we're going to be first in line to even see those. And the public won't even see those until we do. And once we see them, of course, they'll be public record. So I think that's why the applicant has been holding off a little bit. And then I met with the Fort Hospital last week, the consultants for that, which is WGM, and discussed options for what they want to see with that. They don't have any plan, they don't have a density, and they don't have a use yet, which I appreciate that they wanted to at least meet with myself before even coming to a use. So we had a long conversation about background on the area and the Fort Missoula Historic Overlay, what it means to be at the fort, and how this is one of the most coveted historic places in Missoula. It just needs to be, this is unlike any other place in the city to develop. And then we mainly just talked about an outreach plan. I really pressured them to think about doing a public charrette as to what the public would want to see there, and even broader than the neighborhood, but Missoula, all of Missoula, and holding a public meeting about, would you want to see this or that or this or that, as well as, of course, all of the neighborhood associations and things with that. And I actually pressed them to do that before they come up with a plan or a use, so that they can hear the neighborhood and hear the sentiments of the neighborhood and the city as a whole. They went into it, I think, as most people do, pretty quickly. And I think there's precedence with the Mercantile and the 4th Street and everything about slowing down and talking with the public before jumping into a use plan. I know they met with the mayor, and the mayor was all for it. And basically I was like, whoa, you need to slow way down and talk to a lot of people before moving forward with this. Otherwise it's going to get derailed immediately. So that was an interesting conversation to have, especially with WGM as the developers, but I would hope they listened, and I think it's gonna be a different project than we're used to in Missoula, hopefully. Heritage Missoula, the 13 banners that I talked about last time are up right now on Higgins, so drive by that. Those were all taken in partnership with the Lee Nyes Eddie's Club collection. I talked about the grant last time that we received, and there was a subcommittee that was made for doing the actual kiosk planning and writing an interp for implementing that interpretive kiosk for the grant that was received. Kent is on that committee on behalf of the HPC. Kent, do you have anything to say about that or any updates?
Yeah, we've met a couple of times, maybe 3 times altogether. And as I'm sure you're aware, that Jimmy and others that have been involved with this are moving along pretty rapidly, and they've been involved heavily with the tribe in terms of getting the language correct for that first kiosk at the library. And the text is pretty well set now. And now they're looking to the provider that the partnership uses for its graphics to put together sort of a mock-up of how the pictures will look on that kiosk for that first kiosk at the library. So that's kind of the current status. And then we're starting to look at the location of the second one, which will be by the museum, Missoula Art Museum. And so that's much further off in terms of actually being in place. But the first one there at the library, we're waiting to see the mock-up of the photo, how the photos will fit with the text and so forth before we can proceed.
Great. So that kind of covers, we got, in addition to the kiosk, we have the bronze medallions that's going to be set in the sidewalk. And I said this last time that it would be set in the next couple months, but we actually have it made now. So it's made, it's real, it's physical. So we have to set it in the next couple months. And the next one will be the Missoula Art Museum. And I'm trying to get right now all of the fees waived from the city end, because I think it's ridiculous that the city would charge us fees for that, considering we're a city. But that's something I'm working on. The Unseen Missoula tours were very successful considering it was COVID. We again sold out of nearly every tour this summer. The group size was winnowed down to 8 from 15 with 6 feet of distance, masks on. But again, it was still sold out. We didn't get to go into some of the cooler places such as the tunnel under the Dana due to COVID, but people still really enjoyed it. And this was our first year. So this is our third summer now doing it where we didn't have one single negative complaint, which is awesome. We just met this week for next summer and how we're going to go about that. Fort Missoula is planning a spin-off Unseen Fort tour, so kind of behind the scenes of the fort and using the name Unseen Missoula and the branding that we came up with, which is pretty cool. And then the history of Missoula music, which was written and put on by Leif Fredrickson, who's hopefully going to be our maybe next HPC member, is currently on display at the Unseen Museum. And he actually wrote and did spin-off tours for the history of music in Missoula, and they were really, really, really popular. So we're hopefully going to actually make those more of a normal tour next summer, just because Missoula has such a rich, more modern history music scene of our punk rock, and a lot of that, which I didn't know any of until I saw the display. The Downtown Missoula Partnership's fall fundraising campaign is called Spirit of Place, which is cool because it's kind of taking off of all of the success of Heritage Missoula and Unseen. A new tour was written just for this month on the Downtown Heritage Trail, which was called for from the Downtown Intert Plan. I'm going to be one of the tour guides for that, and that's going to run through October just for the next 2 Tuesdays. And I think they're pricey tickets that is only sold, I don't even know the background, but it's somehow going to make money. It's a fundraising thing. So I don't think it's really open to the public, but. And then the last thing for the Heritage Missoula, I was invited to be on the Business Advisory Council for the Missoula Downtown Association. And that was specifically called out for in the downtown master plan that came out 1 year ago. And that was due to that report. I think some of you went by a retail consultant that historic places actually boost downtown economy more than new places. So I'm pretty flattered that they have a historic preservation person on the Business Advisory Council. I think that's new and that's forward looking and very progressive of them to actually think about that. The city county, the federal building acquisition is in full swing. Paul kind of updated us on that. A&E Architects were hired to perform the space needs assessment, historic building maintenance and needs assessment, and creating a preservation plan in partnership with SHPO and NPS if we actually acquire it. And so that's been pretty exciting. We've done a few tours of the building, which is actually really challenging to get into. I don't know, Paul, you can speak to that, but currently the tenants are the FBI and it's hard to get in there. Paul, do you have anything to say?
Yeah, absolutely. It's been, even from the design team side, it's been very difficult to get access into the building. But we're going to try to get the HPC, whoever's interested from HPC, to go through, which I'm sure, Emmy, you'll probably want to talk about that.
Yeah, so I kind of put in a request that one of these tours, we could invite the HPC to be a part of it. I've only been on one tour, and again, they're hard to get into, but it sounds like, Paul, with you being kind of a part of it, we could get in there as a commission. Hopefully, we're on, they know we want to get in, so.
Right, yeah.
Trying for that.
It was even hard to get into when it was officially open.
Yeah, I mean, it's like kind of going through like, you know, the airport with the full search, and then I spilled my coffee on the x-ray machine and it was great. I'm sure we're welcome back. So that's all really happening. It's very exciting. And when I'm done with member comments, Paul, if you want to speak any more to that, you're welcome to, and I'll just breeze through the rest. I know that the vice presidential debate is at 7, so I will go fast. The 4th Street condos, per the right-of-way conditions that we all were a part of very quickly back in that day. Because no one wanted to move the building, we're going through with the standards that was put forth as the conditions for the right-of-way. And the consultants actually want to hire a preservation sub-consultant, which I think is great. So they're not going to do it themselves. They're actually going to hire a cultural resource management professional. I wrote the job description for that. So as not to have anything missed and to try and write it in a way that is kind of Section 106 mitigation standards and emulating that. Deconstruction is tentatively planned for the end of February, early spring. So all those standards and mitigation needs to happen before then, but the standards have to be approved or met by the HPO, me, and I'm sure I'll share with you guys before a demolition permit can be obtained by the developers. The Mullen Area Master Plan has moved along. The reason I keep bringing this up is it's just a very big deal for Missoula and in long range planning, the team that I'm a part of. This has been major. This is the first plan in Missoula which calls for a form-based code. So it's been a lot of research and a lot of work on writing that form-based code and what that looks like and how that works in our ordinance for the first time. And that is currently being reviewed by Planning Board, and it's next slated to go to City Council for adoption, hopefully. The preservation objectives portfolio, I went through last time, and I'll follow up with our subcommittee on that and send that email with the research just to peruse, and then we can meet separately and go over that. But basically that's research on other preservation plans that have been updated in the past. You know, realizing that our preservation plan, our master plan was written in 1989 and it's never been updated. And a lot of the preservation plans, well, all of them that I've found by major cities, I mean, Boulder, you know, Boise, Spokane, I know they're a little bit bigger, but they've all updated theirs in the past 5 years, including Bozeman, who did their update in 2017. So it's time. And I think we have momentum moving for that because we haven't for so long, and we can clearly show council that we haven't for so long, and this is a necessary step for the program. Per council request, and something I probably should have done a long time ago, is working on informational flyers for our website and our Facebook on what triggers a historic preservation permit, what the National Register is, the nuances of our ordinance, the differences between contributing listed and historic districts. I know they're confronted a lot with a lot of misinformation from developers not understanding what this all means. And there isn't any, you know, FAQs or fact sheets on the city website. So I've been working on that as well. I mentioned the University of Montana brick last time. I haven't heard back in, but as far as I know, it's been pulled up and replaced with the stamped concrete. And that was brick that was originally from Higgins and Railroad, and it was put in the UN pathways in the 70s. The budget, last time I said that we put in a request for additional funding to pay for a part-time paid intern for the Historic Preservation Office. That was denied, so we didn't get any more funding. And I'll go into that a little bit later. This was actually our first time ever requesting additional funding since the city and county split. We are definitely the lowest budget in the whole city. We didn't request that much, but it was not passed. That said, the building department is, for lack of a better word, taking pity on us because of obvious reasons, and they are overfunded. And so they're offering to loan or give us money on their own. And so I'm working with the building department because historic preservation is building, it's building related, and coming up with some agreements for them to transfer some of their funds into our budget since it was initially denied by the admin. So we could be tentatively getting as much as $20,000, which is double than what I asked for in the budget. And that's just through our negotiation right now with myself and the building department. And them recognizing a need and how underfunded we have been for the past almost 20 years. And how they have received funding every single budget. So it's been really interesting, and it's something that I'm taking really seriously in those conversations, and I appreciate that it has been noticed by another department. So our CLG report is due the end of October, and that's just our semi-annual report. Unfortunately, this year was a little tricky with COVID, and so we didn't get to meet as much, but SHPA was being fully understanding of that. We are expecting a new HPP for 1310 Gerald, which is an A.J. Gibson house in the University District. And they should be submitting their application next week. I conducted a site visit, and the new owner, basically there's a new owner and wants to restore it back to the original ways that it was. So I didn't see any major alterations other than basic preservation. And so the public hearing will be tentatively for November, our November meeting, and you guys will get the same notice that is normal. So you'll have 2 weeks to review any of those alterations, which I will get to you with a staff report once I get the application. Since we last met, the Fort Missoula locomotive shed has been completed. The Northern Pacific Railroad roof tile for the depot began last week for that redo. The ZAC sign was conditioned by the design review board to be even smaller than what we initially requested, and that is now painted and complete. So that was kind of a win. We still have the 3 vacancies for HBC. Nothing has changed on that. The excuse is COVID. I don't know what else to say about that. Jamie and I have both reached out to the city and the city clerk, and we're at a standstill with getting any new members on, even though we're almost going on a year. The Rattlesnake Dam removal has been fully.
Can I just ask a question on that score?
Yes.
This is Paul. Is it possible we could invite those individuals to attend the meeting
They could attend
regardless?
as
Yeah.
public.
Yes. It might be nice to send a formal invitation to them so that they're aware that that option exists.
And I think that's a great idea, Paul, and I think that would be most appropriately sent from the chair and vice chair. If you guys feel comfortable doing that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think that's a great idea. And I can forward you, so one of them is Leif, who we talked about. And then another one was someone who reached out and is moving here and is interested. And I can send you, I'll forward you her email if you want to discuss with her about kind of what's going on and invite her. That'd be great.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
So
thank you.
just to ask the question, COVID is preventing them from conducting interviews or meeting with city council? What, I mean, just saying it's COVID, that doesn't say much.
It really doesn't. I wish I had an answer.
would it be
Jimmy,
worth us reaching
thing.
out to
No.
city council people and saying,
So we already
We need to-
have reached out to city council. My boss, on behalf of us, has reached out to city council. And we're just hit with a no. And I just don't have an answer. It's really frustrating. And they're just not willing to move forward. And I think it's another excuse is lack of employees in the clerk's office and a lack of employees because there's been a hiring freeze from COVID.
Yeah, I guess I'd just like to state for the record that, you know, the Historic Preservation Commission is here doing their volunteer job. They're showing up. And we'd appreciate it if the city would support that by adding the new members who have already applied, some of which who applied almost a year ago. So
This is Steve. I think you're right. They, you know, when they reorganized the whole commission, they made a really big deal about attendance. And if we can't get attendance because we can't get members, and I suspect they have been having interviews to fill other boards and doing they have not?
No, so this isn't just the HPC. All boards are still on a freeze.
All boards are on a freeze.
Mhm.
Okay.
Is there somebody in the mayor's office or whatever, or the president of the council who could give us a status report on what's going on there? Because as others have already pointed out, we have people waiting to be part of this and they can't participate officially. And, you know, it seems like if we could get at least an official response to what's going on, that would be helpful. And then we can maybe figure out a strategy going forward.
As staff, I don't really know what to say. I have reached out repeatedly and maybe a letter from the chair and vice chair would help.
Well, I wonder if, you know, we could each reach out to our own council person, whoever, you know, whatever ward we're in, and just say, you know, I'm a member of this volunteer body, which is trying to meet and conduct business and preserve the history of Missoula. And we'd like to know what's going on.
That would be great.
It-
As of right now, I know that city council is aware because I did reach out to them with LaBelle, my boss. They then reached out to the clerk. The clerk reached out back to council and said, we're not hiring for any boards. And there's not really a reason there other than lack of employees at the city.
And this is Jim. I think, don't we have, there's 3 of us coming up for renewal in December of this year.
Yeah,
And I'm sorry, I'm not on video anymore. We've lost our internet here at home, so you're not seeing me anymore. I'm
yeah,
not seeing you.
that's okay. I mean, Jim, that's such a good point because the next time we meet is November and then after that is December. So
Yeah.
then what?
Amy, is there something in the statutes that the members have to be interviewed by the city council members? Or
Yeah,
is
for
that it?
all
I mean, so it's
city-
not something that we could do the interviews and pass it on to city council and say, we approve these. Okay.
just because we're quasi judicial, so we actually pass permits and deny permits, has to be overseen by the council.
This is Steve. I like the idea of inviting people just to get them involved, whether they're officially on the board or not. I thought the bylaws stated that the previous members would serve until they are replaced. So
They do.
Even though their term is up, they're still on the board until they're actually replaced. Is that correct?
That is correct. That's
Uh,
correct. But you know, considering those members signed off December of last year,
True. Yeah.
and I haven't talked to admin, but somewhere between December and now, their emails stopped being on the listserv. I don't know who took them
Oh.
off or anything like that. But
Well, I think technically they're still on the board until they get replaced, right?
they are,
I mean, whether they choose to show up or not because they submitted their resignation almost a year ago, that's up to them. But
I mean, technically, yeah, and maybe we should re-add those emails, but in my personal, non-professional opinion, I think it's kind of unfair to ask them to continue to serve a year after they turned off for whatever personal reasons or whatever they didn't, you know, and I think that's been a response from the city clerk as well. In your bylaws, they have to, you know, until they're replaced. And my initial response back is, well, isn't it, you know, we can't make them serve a year after they turned off just because the city won't hire or won't interview anyone. And yeah, but that's a good point.
I think maybe we should look into, deputizing some interim members, just making a posse until city council gets back on. No, just kidding.
Well, I'm wondering, Emmy, since you as staff should have to sacrifice your status and so forth by continuing to appeal on our behalf. I'm wondering if a letter signed by Jamie and Paul from the commission representing us as members that goes to all the council, not just to the mayor, not just to to Marty, but to the actual council. So I'm sure most of them don't realize what's going on as a body because they're working on all these other things, and rightfully so. But I think sometimes if we as volunteers make the appeal rather than you as staff, it may carry more weight. I don't know.
I think it's time to be a squeaky wheel.
Yeah.
Amen.
Well, I like Kent's suggestion. Could we do something like invite them as advisory members or something like that? Have the vice chair and the chair invite them to be, non-official advisory members?
And I think that could be part of the letter that, because we feel it's important for continuity that the people that want to be part of our group should be able to at least know what's going on. And if we can get some kind of feedback from the council about where things stand so that these people that are applying can be interviewed and seated, then so much the better.
And ultimately, this is a public board and they're all public meetings. So anybody can come and take part and speak and even advise as a member of the public. So I think they could certainly be involved. It's just they may not have the official position yet. And then we just need to work to get the vacancies filled.
So Jamie, are you willing to pen a letter?
Yeah, I can craft a letter. It's not going to be super detailed, but yeah, I can get that done.
Yeah, Jamie, let me know. I can help you
Okay.
out there too. Happy to.
This is my busy time of year right now.
Well, moving on. I appreciate that conversation, everyone. The Rattlesnake Dam removal, everything has been deconstructed. and all requested historic features were successfully removed, which is rare and kind of a win, including the tile roofing material. Initially, we thought it'd have to be taken down with a helicopter, but the crew actually got it down without that, and it's all in storage to be reused for interpretive kiosks. An inadvertent discovery was made of an old dump site from the turn of the century. Construction was fully halted, and the site was documented by an archaeologist, and all the findings have been archived with FEMA and SHPO. And that was pretty exciting. Moon Randolph Homestead, restoration work is currently taking place for the root cellar. I know that there was a project a couple years ago, over 3 years ago before my time, to create ventilation and to fix the mold problem, and whatever happened, it actually made it worse. So this is kind of mitigating what was done within the past 5 years to put in proper ventilation so that we don't have more invasive mold. And then the milk shed roof was replaced in kind. It was caving in and had severe water damage. So we replaced that. There is new Tyvek sheeting that is currently visible on the underside, but we put together a plan to obscure it using metal sheeting, which was actually on there before we removed it. So it's all in kind. I'm still working with the long range planners, of course, on the growth, city growth policy and ensuring that historic preservation related efforts are included. One win is there was an update to the city strategic framework, which has been finalized. For that, all budget requests must adhere to the strategic framework of the city. So any updates, and it was finalized after this last budget request. But before, there was never a mention of historic preservation or cultural resource management. Now we have a full paragraph. And it's only like 8 paragraphs long. So worked hard to get that in there. And so we have an entire section on historic preservation in the strategic framework for the city. So we can now base future budget requests off of that, which is
That's great, Amy. Thanks for
fantastic.
doing that.
Yeah, of course. And then I sent an email the other day that we are an organizational forum member for the National Trust. And so I can register everyone for the Pass Forward conference at no cost. Unless someone doesn't want me to put their email in, just let me know. I'm working to get that registered in the next couple days. So hopefully by Friday I'll have that done. There's a little bit of hiccup where I didn't write down the password from last year, and the password reset goes to the city spam. The city spam can't recover it. And so I'm working with the National Trust to recover it to get you guys in. But one really cool thing is we got a shout out by the National Trust of Historic Preservation, and our adaptive reuse ordinance is being marketed and exemplified for the promotion of the conference. So it's like a little quote from me on behalf of the HPC, and it says City of Missoula. I haven't seen it yet, but that's going to go into their promotional marketing, and it's going to be used for the next couple of years for their marketing and historic preservation commissions and ordinance writing. So that's pretty cool to be called out on a national scale. And that's my general updates for the past couple months. I'm sure I left a lot of things out, but it's been busy and exciting, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Emmy. You have been busy. Bruce, do you have a question?
No, it was part of the comments on the vacancies.
Sorry. All right. Thank you. Anyone else for Emmy?
Nothing really except a great big thank you.
Thank you guys.
Amen.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, wait. Go ahead, Jim.
No, I just said, yes, I agree.
Oh, shoot. I think we kind of went through board member comments earlier. Does anybody have anything else? I do have one thing I neglected to share. This is the mom and me. My daughter Gwen, who was the intern with Historic Preservation and Parks and Rec last year at Moon Randolph, published an article in an online journal, Not Even Past, and it's received some good traction, and it's Preservation and Decay as Public History at the Moon Randolph Homestead. I think, is there a chat that I can share that in? Not see it.
Oh, maybe there's not.
They
Yeah.
may have disabled it.
It's disabled.
It may have been, yeah.
Oh, okay, let me see if I can share the screen. There we go. There's the article. Past is never dead. It's not even past. So that's a momerific thing.
Mhm.
I guess I'd also like to say, thank you to everyone for showing up and like I said, and participating. I think it's so important. This is our community in action. And so thank you everyone for their time, and thank you for the staff, and thank you, Emmy. And do we have anything else? Any events? Okay, I guess I call for adjournment. Do we need to move for that, or can we just adjourn?
No. Staff, do you know?
I don't offhand.
Hey,
Why don't we
you can
call
just
to
adjourn.
adjourn just to be
Okay,
safe?
well, I'll call for adjournment.
So move.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Thank you, everyone, and have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you, Paul.
We'll get that letter done.